we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome. And thank you for joining our webinar, 320 Seconds to Respond, Maximizing Situational Awareness While En Route, hosted by 3AM Innovations and Panasonic TOUGHBOOK. My name is Christy LaPlante. I am the Vice President of Marketing at 3AM Innovations, and I am thrilled to serve as the host for today's discussion. As noted in your registration communications, this discussion is being recorded for you. Each of you will receive a link to view the recording at the email address you used to register. We'll be able to send that to you before the end of this week, but if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to us. Our contact info can be found at www.3am.info. That's the number 3am.info. This webinar also has a Q&A feature. You'll find that Q&A button at the bottom bar of the video screen. So if at any time throughout today's session, a question pops into your mind, you can enter your questions for our panelists directly into that Q&A box. We reserve time at the end of today's discussion to review as many of your questions as possible. No question is too broad or too specific, so please fire away. So all that said, thanks again for joining. We have two expert panelists joining us today as well. Patrick, I will start with you. Please introduce yourself in 3AM.
Sorry about that. I had to find the mute button. So, hey guys, my name is Patrick O'Connor. I am a co-founder at 3AM Innovations, and for the most part, 3AM is providing essential tech for essential workers. And we are here to actually track the first responders and provide them information on en route. And what that really means is giving you the most amount of information you can get while going to the call. And as this is called 320 seconds, you really don't got too much time, so we got to maximize all of it you can.
Wonderful.
A little bit about myself, though. I was a volunteer firefighter out in a suburb out of Buffalo, New York. And so really, this is near and dear to me just because it's experiencing some loss in the service. There has to be a better way. And for the most part, a lot of the fire service is using antiquated technology. Actually, the PCAST report just recently came out stating that. And so we really want to be here to help further the technology that the fire departments use and show them there's a lot better stuff out there that they could leverage today.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. So important. And also joining you is Marcus Claycomb from Panasonic. Marcus, please tell us a bit about yourself and Panasonic Connect.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. My name is Marcus Claycomb. I am presently the National Business Development Manager for Panasonic Connect for public safety. That is police, fire, rescue, and medical. I was a firefighter EMT in Florida for a little over 12 years and did 30 years in law enforcement, as well as have a background in computer network administration. And I was the IT liaison for the city of Melbourne for the police department for the majority of that 30 years. Panasonic, you probably know the TOUGHBOOK series being in public sector. There's a whole lot more that Panasonic offers worldwide, but everything that we do is those three bullet points at the top: change work, advance society, and connect to tomorrow. And we do that by connecting with and collaborating with the end users to make sure you're getting exactly what you want and what you need. And we focus on two silos of information: what technology is out there already and how do we make it better, and what is the need void in the marketplace and how do we use technology to advance it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you both for being here today and speaking on this important topic. Let's jump right in. Patrick, I'm going to start with you. Today's topic is focused on the 320-second average time frame between the moment the tones go out and when our brave first responders arrive on a scene. At 3 a.m., we reference this as the en route period specifically. Patrick, why is that period of time so important?
Well, if you really think about it, Christy, so 320 seconds, you have 5.5 minutes. And there's so much that you have to do in that time frame. So if you're the officer, you're in the jump seat. Now, a lot of them are looking at binders and whatnot to get the floor layout. They're trying to find what are the hazards that they're going to. If they're lucky, their dispatch has what's called CIDs, or it's critical building information notes, so they can find out if there's bars on the windows or whatnot. But all that, you're just trying to get an idea of what you're going to be rolling up on, and to actually get that data in a more efficient manner is pivotal because, again, you only have 320 seconds. It's not a lot of time. It goes by real fast.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's not a lot of time. And Marcus, I know obviously Panasonic is heavily involved with that part of the process with your devices in the trucks at that time. What are you seeing at Panasonic, and how are firefighters using ToughBook during that window?
So what we've seen, it goes, back to what Patrick was alluding to, 320 seconds isn't a long time, but it can seem like a lifetime if you're just driving to the scene to finally get the information when you get out of the vehicle and then start assessing it and then start relying on it. But if you have data that's incoming from the moment of the alarm, and you can start preparing for that and deciding what resources you need and decide which traffic flow is best and who the closest units are, the computer in the vehicle is the conduit to do that. And we're seeing as the days go by, there's more and more information available more rapidly and larger amounts of that. And that's not even including the 5G options that are coming with metadata. So it is getting all of that crucial information. Some of it, like Patrick said, that is historical in a 3-ring binder on an 8.5 sheet of paper that was the old pre-plans, but is now digital and includes hyperlinks to cameras that you can get real-time access to what is actually on scene right now. It's an amazing quantum leap in information, and those front seat lieutenants and those crews are going to have to decide, really limited only by their own creativity, how to use that to their advantage in preparation on the way to a call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Patrick, I'm curious your thoughts there as well. I mean, obviously there's a lot that I know 3 a.m. will do to try and provide access to information at that time. What is it that you think is the most valuable information that our brave firefighters can have at that moment? What's important to look at, and what's important to consider?
Well, so something as simple as just street view. So one thing, when we were doing a lot of our customer research, we found a lot of the firefighters immediately would jump on their phone and they would type in the address, and they would pull up either the Google or Apple Street View that they had available to them so that they could get an idea of what type of building you're rolling up on. So like, just by looking at it, you could tell what type of construction, is it heavy timber? Is it lightweight? So just having that is pivotal. And so that's one thing that we definitely decided to build in right away, is having that where we know the address. We're getting it from the CAD integration that we have with your department. So now it just immediately takes you directly to that location, and you're not fumbling on your phone. You have a nice big screen to work with. And it just gives you that ability to just, zip around the building, and you get a digital 360 before you even arrive. So that's a huge advantage right there. And then if you take it to our 3D maps that we have with through Microsoft, now we have the building footprint as well. And if you could take it into the satellite view that we have, now you're seeing the HVAC units, you're seeing, is there an air shaft in the middle? So all this you're getting immediately within the first 30 seconds of jumping in the rig. And now you can mentally make a better plan of how you're going to attack this and how you're going to stage. And just, listening to all the radio chatter that I have over the years, knowing where the hydrants are and what main they're actually attached to. So there's been many times calls where, it's now progressing to a 4th alarm or 5th alarm, but now the mains are actually in question because you're draining an entire main. You need to get access to another one. We've heard calls where they actually send out scouts to find another main that's not being used right now. Having that information, we're not having to send a scout out, is pivotal. So all that stuff could be actually included right away. And again, you get that en route to the call. So.
Marius, I'm curious what on your end you've seen, and maybe if you could share some examples as well of the kind of information that can be accessed.
Yeah, absolutely. So having CAD available in the vehicle was a quantum leap forward in the early 2000s, because prior to that, you're relying on basically the telephone game. Communications gets the information, they translate it, and they push it out on the radio, and you fly blind for 320 seconds, and you arrive on scene and start making your plan. Other than if you see a black column of acrid smoke, obviously you can plan for that. But and having the CAD information, in addition to what is being typed in, not just what's being transmitted over the radio, hazards for that location, other vehicles that are en route, in service, and or available. You can make command and control decisions regarding that. Like I said, hyperlinks to DOT cams. If it was a crash you were responding to, and you got alerted there was a multi-bus rollover on the interstate, you're going to empty a few stations to address a MCI like that. But if you can get on the DOT cam and see it's actually a fender bender involving 2 cars that have pulled off to the side of the road with no injuries, you can call off the other 26 units that you had going to that, put them back in service, be way more efficient and effective in your response. And to the contrary, you could get a fender bender, look on the DOT cam and see it's much worse than that. Call in units, save time, save lives, because you're dispatch those units out. You can have access to private-public partnership cameras. You can see, I'll take the multi-vehicle accident and put it into a fire scenario. You get a call for a fully involved structure fire in a corporate building. By tying into those, and obviously you would ramp up and send some alarms out. But if you were able to access the camera inside the building and see it was a trash fire that's already been put out in the kitchen, again, you could call off those units. Or if it was the opposite, you could ramp that up too. And kind of taking the street view that you already talked about, there's many an agency, and I'll give a shout out to Chula Vista Police Department because they are on the cutting edge of technology and drone usage. But drone as the first responder programs are huge. And not only are you getting everything that you just said, but you're getting it real time.
Yeah.
You can see if it's self-ventilated already. You can see if there's structural damage. You can see if, a lot of stuff that's actually real-time information. And then depending on how many computers you have in the vehicle, you can actually subdivide that to actual specific assignments as well. So lieutenant could be looking up command and control operations, and ventilation crews could be looking up rooftop access and things like that.
So Marcus, actually, I do want to drill down into what you just said right there. Having multiple computers inside the actual cab itself. So now that's actually something that we've heard on our side from, the CTOs and whatnot of the fire departments. Now you guys have a tablet that we could actually do that with in the back, right?
We have a couple. Yeah, we have a 10-inch and a 12-inch tablet that actually both act as 2-in-1s. And what that means is it will stand alone. The computer is the tablet, but it will fit into a keyboard that makes it the old school clamshell style computer as well. So if you have reports to write or information to enter, that's easier to do with a keyboard than on-screen keyboard. And we have 2 other clamshells as well that could operate. And they can operate as a mirror. So the guys in the back jump seats can see what's happening, but there's no interaction. Or it could be 2 completely separate computers that are autonomous that you can use for a variety of individual circumstances.
So I think that's actually pretty critical. What you just touched on it a little bit when you were saying that in the back, you could have your different aspects. So whether you're on the ventilation team or you're on the attack team, you're going to be looking at different parts of the structure or different areas. And I think that's a really good, thing to actually drill down into is how they could do that in the back seat instead of just relying on the officer to crunch all the data in these 320 seconds and then regurgitate it to the team while they're, getting ready on site. So now you can compartmentalize almost a little bit. And I think that's getting more to the connected firefighter that everyone is seeing as the future. And it is definitely something that's available today.
Yeah, absolutely. And those computers are not just tools in the vehicle. There are some that may be mounted, medical reporting in the back of a box, computers in the front seat of an engine or a truck or a squad, but also in that back jump seat, again, just to push the information back so they have it available, or it's a functional computer that they can have interaction with and do a variety of things, crash related, fire related, medical related. And again, limited pretty much only by your creativity. They can actually be taken out of the vehicle if docked and used on scene for all of those circumstances as well.
Yeah, and so like even now you could even take it, you look at this where you have the chief at vehicle. They could be actually interacting on their computer and through like a platform through ours or whatnot, they can now convey information and everyone could receive it. So like scribble on the screen and all that with the touchscreen, because all your computers are touchscreen. So now that allows you to very quickly and easily actually add information and disseminate it across everyone. Absolutely.
Yeah. With zero delay if everyone is head down on that project, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've actually seen it's about a 5-second, max that everyone gets it across. So with the departments that we're on, it's literally they're able to scribble the ABCD of the structure, and immediately before you leave the apron, everyone's on the same page. They know what hydrant they're going to go hit because they see, okay, we're first due. A's on this side of the building. Well, there's 3 hydrants right here. It's a no-brainer. It just makes things that much easier, and it puts everyone on the same page real quick.
Yeah, and you can share all hazards. You can share traffic rerouting. I mean, like real time, adjust your plan of attack with one vehicle or multiple.
So actually, you just made me think of, so there was one time we were doing a training with one of the onboarding of the departments we're doing, and they had it running in their on their tough books in advance. It was just there, and they were just playing with it. And during the training, the guy's like, "Oh, I don't need to be trained on this." I'm like, why? He's like, "Oh, I used it the other day," and it turned out that they were out of quarters. And I'm sorry, there's the first 2 ladder was out of quarters, and they were coming in, and they saw the other ladder coming. And so they rerouted themselves to have proper placement in front of the structure. And they were saying, it's like, oh yeah, it was perfect. Like, we know the way that we should have gone, but because we saw where the other ladder was coming from in real time, I was just able to reroute myself, and we actually now came around. And it's those little things that you don't think is a big deal, but they really add up in the end. And like crash avoidance. There's so many times where engines are coming down and they get crashed, but now they could literally look on their computer like, oh, actually engine 10's coming, perhaps just slow down, or probably tell them to slow down, either way. So yeah, it's bringing in this technology. I mean, it's commonplace to everyone else, but it's drastically needed in the fire service as a whole.
Well, and one of the things that, and I'm gonna say all of public safety, not just fire, is we suffer from, we don't know what we don't know. And it is the reason we're having this conversation now is to get this technology in front of people so they know it's available, so that they can use it and find ways to get it in their hands to use to save lives, both in the house and out of it, and have as much efficiency in operations, which is important anyway, but especially right now with the staffing shortages that are plaguing pretty much everything, but certainly public sector right now, we have to do the very best we can with the people that we do have working and not burn them out.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you take it, basically, you go to an army thing, is you go to war with the army you have. And going into volunteer, that's where I come from, is there's times you show up to a fire, you got 15 guys, and that's it. There's no reinforcements coming. There's not, you got to get it done.
Figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. You just adapt and overcome. So now, and that's actually, I know one of our employees, he literally was the only guy so he drove the engine there. He flaked the hose himself. He started getting everything going before anyone else showed up. So he was a one-man crew for a while. So yeah, like it's definitely having the technology. It's never going to replace people, but it's going to augment. It's going to help them. And that's something that we feel very deeply here, is we're never here to complicate. We're here to complement. And that's really what we're looking to do is, with partnerships like you have the actual hardware that we need to actually get this out there and get it in the world. We're a software layer. There's only so much that we can do. We need the actual platforms that you guys offer. Like you say, we have the tablets and the tough books and all the things that we know could actually survive, because tough books have been around for a while. I use tough books my entire career. It's definitely like, this is where, we need to actually work together to better the actual fire service and police service.
Absolutely. And that is the primary mission, and I'll speak for both of us in this, is to serve our brethren and family members that are serving in the public safety and make their job as safe as we possibly can and as easy as we possibly can. Not that our jobs are easy, but whatever we can do to help out. This is a complementary relationship. We make computers, we make technology, and we help sell solutions. You create software that works on hardware. It makes sense, but where it's incredibly important that you think about the type of computer you're getting is the general version that I use, and I am both, so I can pick on both. It needs to be firefighter and police resistant. We're not easy on our stuff, and we shouldn't have to be. And it's mission critical that it works when you need it to. And it is that total cost of ownership, ensuring that when you need it, this machine is going to work and the software that's on it is going to do what you need it to do. And that is a partnership that is created in the inception of Panasonic's relationship with anybody they partner with, that we know it's going to work before we ever push it out to anybody to use it.
Yeah, Marcus, kind of on that point, and maybe more generally, is why now? What has changed that has made this, or has anything changed that's made all of this information that you both have been referencing more available, more reliable? What's changed recently to make that happen?
time and advances mostly, and it being less expensive to get it. You find that technology exponentially advances year over year, but not all of it is fiscally available, especially for us in the public sector. We do not have a ton of money to spend, and we do not have, complete command and control of how and where we can spend it. So we need to find those solutions that are available and affordable to public safety. But truly, the advances in technology have created competition in the market, which is making stuff more accessible and available and offering more opportunities for us, both in the hardware and the software side solution set. And that's just with, what we've had to date, including 4G LTE and the ability to transmit it, because it's great to have the information, but to be able to get that data from point A to point B and make it usable. 3G, it was fairly limited, 4G, then 4G LTE, most of what you're seeing out there right now. The 5G stuff is really a enhanced 4G, so it's not the true 5G yet. When true 5G becomes available, the copious amounts of metadata that is going to be available in many cases is going to require artificial intelligence and augmentation to make it usable data for the end user. There's that much data that's able to be transferred. So it's going to grow explosively in what we can do and how we can do it in the next 2 to 3 years as well.
Yeah, and actually to jump on that a little bit too, is something that I've just personally noticed is in the last few years, a lot of companies are a lot more open to working together and sharing data. So like the whole silo mentality is going away. And that's something that we feel very strongly about as well. Is one, the data is not ours, it's the fire department's data or the police department's data. And they get to decide who gets to see it and all that. So, but if they tell us, share the data with this company over here, share it over here with us, we're going to do that because it only is going to help improve the overall cohesiveness of everything.
Yep.
And so like what we were just talking about is getting the main lines of the hydrants and other things like that. Like, well, I can't do that on my own. I have to work with either, Esri, or I have to work with the water department, or there's a lot of other players that need to work with us. And now with the data at where it is in the digital state, it's a lot more accessible, is what Marcus was just talking about, is we can pull it from APIs and we can pull it into our system, where before it was in some server that was locked down in a basement somewhere and only Gladys could access it. Well, it's really hard to get to then. So that's where now it's very nice, where everything is in the cloud and we can pull it down and we could actually leverage it in real time, rather than having to go to a binder and a printout of the floor plan is on from a PDF. We could just have the PDF digitally.
Yeah, and sometimes that is it's my castle, I'm not sharing. I don't see that as much anymore, just like you said. But sometimes it's just ignorance, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean, just they are not aware. It's a simple conversation with your code guys, or a simple conversation with the city. They're actually probably already collecting information on GIS layers on a map that they can share with you, and layer on a Google map that you can put out for water mains, for access points, for you name it. It could already be there, and just literally be digitally transferred over. And in many cases, we see cities going into write code that any new build has to provide those digital data, so they can literally just plug it in and make it available immediately to the law enforcement, fire services, and code as well. So
yeah, and even talking about the cameras, you were saying there was one city we were working with, to access the cameras, it was all in files. So they would have to go find the file, double click and go into sub file, double click that, go into that sub file, then find the street, double click and go in there. And by the time they found it, the camera was worthless. And we just accessed it, and now we can actually put it directly on the map. And so you just look at the cross, you just click the button and
just make it a pin drop hyperlink and you're there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not only having access to it, but it's making it ease of getting access to it, rather than just having it where, okay, it's in this system somewhere, figure it out. It just make it easier too.
Yeah, work smart, not hard. Because if you have to work hard, some people aren't going to use it.
So I think I love that. I think it's great that all this, to know, right? To know all of this information is available, to know that with increased connectivity, it's more usable, it's more useful while en route. How hard is it to adopt what we're talking about here? How hard is it to adopt that digital kind of operational practice as opposed to well, I think like permanent or binders, for example, that are used today.
Actually, if you don't mind, Marcus, I'll like
Absolutely.
to take this. So as a throw to Marcus is tough books have been around forever. So like leveraging a tough book, that's child's play. Everyone's done it. It's normal laptop that we're on right now. The one thing about the software is going into the software space, it really comes down to making sure that it is designed in a way to be intuitive, to be it where it's not hard to navigate it. And not every software actually has done that. A lot of them just make a thing and say, okay, deal with it. But that's not where we came from. We obviously built this completely from the ground up, and it came down to a lot of customer discovery. And we actually have a really good quote from a chief of a department that we just onboarded, saying that was the easiest onboarding I have ever seen. He goes, and I actually have the most positive, reception from my crew about it, because it just, the way we built our system is it just works. And what you want to click on, it makes sense where it is and how it falls. But I'm not saying that it doesn't exist in other softwares. What I'm getting at is it all comes down to how they designed it. And if they had it with the user in mind, that's the pivotal piece of actually making it where it's usable and the fire departments actually want it as well. You got to have that the data has to be there, but it also has to be there in a way that is not overloading you. Because as Marcus was saying, the metadata that is going to be available, it's going to be insane. They're going to be able to see exactly the every hydrant's putting out, exactly how much hose is going into the building, exactly how much pressure is in each hose. But is all that data truly needed for everyone to have? The pump operator, yeah. Maybe not the actual people on the end of the hose, on the nozzle. They don't need to know that. They just need to know the water's flowing and they have the pressure they need. So it all comes down to giving the data of where it's needed rather than just throwing the data out to everyone. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else that we talked about too a little earlier that I'd love to circle back on a bit is this concept of the sharing of information, even in that short window, right, while we're en route. The sharing of information and how everyone can see the same information at once. Is that limited at all by the type of event, by the type of responder who's showing up? Is it limited to just one company? How is it truly possible that we can share information more broadly than that?
I don't know.
That to me. I would say yes, right? Given the circumstance, that's going to be case by case specific, because there's going to be some vendors that have proprietary information that if they're going to make it available, they have to work through some logistics. But I mean, in general, yes. In general, if everybody's in it for the right reason and the greater good, that information sharing would be made available and shareable over all devices. And you would have the ability on a call type case by case basis to, if it was a fire only call, you'd be sharing that information to the fire service because it was limited to just fire service response. If it's a multi-agency response and neighboring agencies were using the same, throughput and data that you had, you could share it with them as well for a mutual aid response. And if it's a multi-discipline response, meaning police and fire are going, you can certainly share across those aspects as well with information that's available. And it does get back to what Patrick said is, I don't want to just throw the kitchen sink at them. I want to give them actionable data that they can use and that they need so that they can make good decisions and or assist us in a way that we need it to be done. But I go back to one example you gave about I think you said the ladder truck coming in. It's always good not to have to reposition a truck if you can help it. So coming in the right way the first time. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so kind of like what you were saying there is like, yeah, not every call is the same. And drawing off just some experience, like you go and the call's not what was actually toned out. So they're toning out a cat in the tree. And you go there, and it's actually a 2-alarm fire. Like things like that happen, or the address is wrong. They tone out, it's 123 Main Street, and you go there, it's actually 231. And so like you have to be able to adapt, and you have to be able to actually change. And so yeah, not every call is the same. Again, the other what you talked about is on the throughway. Being able to actually drill down into live video. So like, again, going back to Chula Vista, I love that they actually will send out a drone immediately, and then everyone has eyes on right off the bat. And having the drone data piped directly into the cab of the truck, that is a game changer. And there's actually one of the chiefs that we work with out of FDNY a lot. He said that too. He said it's just the level of data you can get from a drone immediately. You get, see the roof, see what's happening there. Is it self-ventilating? There's so much that you could actually pull from that. And it is a game changer. But also you need to make sure you can get that data out, and it can't just be the drone operator on their phone looking at it, because then now it's limiting what that data can do. So that is definitely something that I think is pivotal, is making sure that the data is aware across the entire department, but also leading into the mutual aids. Because when you go into a volunteer department, it's auto aid at that point. It's not mutual aid. It's just for us, every single call we had, our next, the Sheridan Park actually fire department would come every single time. They would get toned out the second we got toned out.
Yep.
So giving them that data too, that's just as equally important.
What it's, you touched on one of them, that the two of the biggest pieces of information that they're now streaming to cars and trucks and responding units that has been incredibly vital and game changing is the drone footage, hands down. The ability to see real time what is actually happening, not what somebody's telling you is happening, not what somebody typed is happening, not a still photo. Next Gen 911's offering all of those things, but a live streaming video of the actual event with the ability to rotate 360 and see that before a truck ever pulls up on scene is incredible and priceless information in the response plans. But the other thing is, and this is no jab at communications officers by any stretch of imagination, but they're also live streaming 911 to units in response, and they can geofence that. So meaning like your entire fire agency is not getting live 911s constantly, but if you are at the store picking up food or in the house and the alarm goes off, you can actually hear the 911 call as it's happening. So you're no longer relying on the telephone game. You're no longer relying on what the communications person translated that they think you need. You're hearing what is actually being reported, which, to your point, sometimes it's reported as a cat in a tree and it's an actual multi-alarm fire, sometimes vice versa, and those response plans are normally going to be very different. So having that information real time, and all of that information that you or the lieutenant or the crew can decipher on their own and decide how they're going to respond to it, can be game changing.
And guys, this sounds like it sounds really interesting. I was thinking it. Also, one of our attendees was thinking it. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask, Patrick, can we see this in action? Because I want to make sure that it really is as easy as you're discussing here.
Sure, we could definitely do that. Let me share my screen. Let me know when you guys can see. And share. Should be taking over now. So you guys should be looking at Boston, basically.
Yep.
So this is our dispatch view. So as we said, we integrate with your CAD system. So over up here, we have a motor vehicle accident, and we could actually jump around a little bit. So we got a motor vehicle accident there, and the color actually denotes what stage you're at. So this is controlled. This is towards the end of the actual call there. This is an EMS call that just recently came in. And then over here is a fire. So now, as you can see, you could actually view or you could join. Now the view, this is actually important. So we kind of touched a little bit more on when we were saying going to a second alarm or third alarm. Well, a lot of times you're in your station, you're hearing the radio chatter, it's going to move to another alarm. Well, what they could do is they could actually jump into their apparatus on the TOUGHBOOK, and they could hit view. And now they're not being tracked, but they're seeing everything that's going on. So now they could be better prepared for when the tones do come out. They know exactly what they're going to do and where they're going to attack. So let's just go ahead and join. And so now the first thing we do when you join into an incident is it gives you your dispatch notes right here. And now we can actually get out of that, and we can actually see what's going on at the scene in real time. So this is the building in question. I could even jump into satellite mode now, and I could see, are there any air shafts? What is the HVAC unit situation on the top? How, is there an alleyway that I could get in behind it? How can I get access to this area here? This gives you a wealth of information that you're actually going to be dealing with to get a look at the building, to do a digital 360. But then we could also jump down into street view. And now with the street view, as I said, I get an idea of what the building actually looks like. What is the construction? I could jump around it and see how we could actually attack it. Are there bars in the windows? Are there anything that I have to worry about? Is there a fence in the way that we're going to have to cut through? So it gives you a wealth of information there. But I could also jump over into what we call our workspaces. And this is something that, so it gives you now another map. So this is actually Google Map here. And so it gives you another view of a map situation. This is our map where it actually shows you where all your people are. You got your street view down here and your dispatch notes over here. So this is where it gives you the ability to mix and match what you want. So as we were talking with street cameras or we're talking with drones, we could swap out these tiles to be a drone feed. So now if there is a drone in the air, you could actually see what it looks like and actually get real-time information, again, as you're en route. And actually going over here again. So hold on, there's a thing in the way for the telling it's recording. So even right here, as we were saying, the ABCD, this is a real quick scribble that the chief could actually just lay down the second the call goes out. And now they're fully aware of, everyone knows, okay, this hydrant is what I'm going to go off. I'm going to hit that hydrant. And then if that one's not taken, I'll take this one over here. But it gives everyone an idea of where they need to go and what they have to actually hit. But now I already know if I jump in, engine 28, they already took this hydrant. And now I know truck 3 is already stationed over there. And again, I could jump into the satellite view. I could get a much better idea of where everyone is. And so this gives them the ability to have more information immediately. And as you can see, you could have actionable intelligence in seconds. And you immediately know what's going on. And your brain could just put you right into work mode rather than when getting on scene and then assessing everything.
This is really interesting. And those are hydrants, correct? And you're seeing them in all the
Yes.
different views. It's interesting.
Yeah, so these are the actual true hydrants in Boston. So we are running on all 87 apparatus of the Boston Fire Department. We have all, I believe, 30-some thousand hydrants loaded. But actually, one thing that I think is important to note is we regulate it down. So let me back out. If you notice, we're not showing you all the hydrants. We're actually showing you the hydrants that are relative to where you are. Because it doesn't matter. I'm not going to show you a hydrant over here. Actually, if you zoom out more, they disappear. But I'm not going to show you hydrants over here because they don't matter to this call. And why would we give you information? Again, going back, we could give you a ton of information, but only relevant. But as I zoomed out, you could also see the engine 10 officer is en route. So you could actually see where they are in the on the call, but we also give you your ETA. Now, obviously, this is a fake call, so it doesn't show you, but here's my computer sitting here in Buffalo, New York. I'm 6 hours and 23 minutes away from my ETA. So obviously it's going to take me a while.
In Boston,
but,
yeah.
But having this is a very important piece because now mentally you can understand where they are, how far out your teams are, and then when you're going to actually put them to work or how they're going to integrate in, because it depends on when they're actually going to arrive at scene.
This is game-changing stuff. Marcus, I have a question for you when it comes to the hardware this runs on. Do I need to be on a traditional clamshell laptop to run this and clicking with the mouse? Or are there other options or ways to interact here?
Well, there's a ton of options and a ton of things to think about, and processing speed is one of those. So you need to work with your vendor to find out what it is that you're wanting to run to make sure the specs of that computer will run what you're wanting it to. So A. B, clamshell, always an option. The traditional old school clamshell computer, like I said, the 2 tablets we have will operate as clamshells, and the 2 other computers that we have, a fully rugged and a semi-rugged computer as well. But it offers touchscreens. It offers the ability to use those in rain, and I mean, a number of uses where, again, we're not easy on our equipment, and it's in smoke, and it's in dirt and sand and fire and super cold and super hot, and it needs to be able to operate. But I would say case specific and what software you're trying to run. I would strongly urge you not to get an off-the-shelf consumer-based computer for operations like this.
Sure.
Actually, real quick, Chris, I could echo that. We were out in California, and just off the shelf computer. It was my personal laptop, overheated when I was doing a ride along in the cab because it was like 175,000 degrees in California at the time. So having that, where knowing it's going to be in the cab of the truck a lot, and actually having to worry about the heat. And then again, Buffalo here, it could freeze on you. We've actually literally, I had to deal with frozen trucks to the ground because it's just, even though it's snowing and raining, still got to fight the fire.
Mhm.
So yeah, having that where it could handle the different temperatures is a really big part. You know, most consumer computers are made to just sit in an office or sit in your house. They're not really made to weather all the different, scenarios that first responders go to and are dealing with. So having that is a really big piece.
That is a case by case, agency by agency need. And we're very strong on the idea that if you want us to come out, we will be happy to and do ride-alongs and see what a normal day in the life of looks like, so that we can help you custom fit the exact hardware and software solutions that you need to do your job to the best of your ability. That's one of the many boutique things that we offer at Panasonic.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Love that. Patrick, earlier when you started the screen share, you mentioned seeing the incoming truck. You can actually give them directions too. Is that correct? Tell them where to go. And
Yep. So for this example here, we'll take engine 10. I could actually hit send, and then it's kind of hard to see in this view. We'll go to terrain. And actually I'll turn the hydrants back on. So let's say I want engine 10 to hit that hydrant right there. So we're giving specific geolocation. So we're giving the latitude and longitude. It's not address based. So it could even be over water. It doesn't matter. It's anywhere in the world you want to give it. And now as soon as I hit that, now that little flag, once it turns black, now that means they just received it. So now they're turn by turn. So I could hit turn by turn. Now it's going to direct me here from Buffalo. So it's going to take for a long time. But their turn by turn will auto update to show from, because originally it'll go to the seat of the building, but now it will actually take them directly to where that flag is. So you could actually send your crews, if they're in staging, you could actually send them out to the staging location, or you could actually send them directly to hydrants. But it really comes down to the logistics of the incident commander of where they want to have everything go. But if they want to let the officers actually do themselves, they can, or they could take a more of a manual approach here and assign people to go to specific locations if they want.
awesome. And call me a skeptic. I'm always trying to test things, but that's so incredible. What about things like traffic or construction or a road is blocked?
Yeah. So well, basically we use the API through Microsoft, and we ignore traffic. And the reason being is you're a first responder. You know, if I gave you the ETA that says it's 20 minutes plus because of traffic, that really doesn't apply to you because everyone's going to get out of your way, or they should get out of your way. And so in that sense, we don't want to give you the wrong ETA. So we're going to give you as no traffic there is and how long it will take for you to get there. Because a lot of times if you're going a hot response, you're going faster than the speed limit anyways. And all cars should be getting out of your way regardless. So it didn't make sense when we were building our product to actually put in the traffic API because it doesn't relate to first responders in the whole. So,
sure. How about in the sense of road closures, or we're trying to get someone to that hydrant, and they're not able to go kind of the traditional route? Does it account for that as well?
Yes. So obviously, like if a road is closed, so what we do is we actually do like it's called a call in dev talk. We'll do a call on are there any road closures, and if there is, then we'll route around it. But for the most part, that's the only thing we really take into account.
Okay.
But something else that actually kind of just brought up is the pathway. So at any point, if there is an active engine or whatnot, I can actually hit show path. And the reason why that's important is if, let's say it's a university and it's a really big campus or whatnot, and they meet the key holder, the first due engine meets the key holder, and then they go back into the facility, driving around, going around. Having it where you could actually pull up the pathway of the engine or of the chief who actually had the key holder, and following their pathway, I think is a really important piece that not a lot of people have that ability, and we can do that in real time. And it really came up in Texas. They were talking about their oil fields. And let's say, an oil field wasn't on fire, but there was a guy with a broken leg. They met the key holder and they went 3 miles into the oil field. The other ones, they don't know where to go. Well, through FLORIAN, you can actually follow the pathway of exactly where they went and just copy it yourself. So it's like, again, little things that actually make you way more efficient when you really look into it.
Yeah, definitely. Patrick, thank you for sharing that. Thanks for the screen share. I think that helps really illustrate, how it works, how it can work, right, for folks on the call. I appreciate both of you so much for sharing your insights here and helping all of us understand how these things are available today and how they might work so that we can get started. I did promise time at the end of today's session for Q&A. So for folks who are attending, like I said, no question too broad or too narrow. If you have a specific question for your department, if there's something that you're just curious about, feel free to pop it into that Q&A box. I do see one question from one of our attendees that says, our department is still on very dated technology. What would you recommend as a first step to get closer to something like this? Marcus, I'll start with you.
I would recommend a couple of things. And one that I'm going to go back to immediately is get a hold of your vendors. I'm assuming if you have antiquated technology, you know what's out there to be able to compare it. Get with those groups that you're looking to get software and hardware from, find out what's available, and go over with them a punch list of your needs and wants and budget. And they can tell you what you can gain, what you can access. And quite honestly, there's a lot of grant money out there that you might be able to bridge the gap with to get actually what you need and want. And you might find that you'll get exactly what you need, but maybe not everything that you want. And you can build it from there as you build budgets and prove that the total cost of ownership and the investment in that. But I would definitely have a conversation. I would definitely make sure you know what's out there before you put the requests out for bid or for inquiries. And talk to other departments and find out what's working for people. And especially those around you. We go back to that sharing of information. There are some counties that every entity in the county operates off the same CAD system and buys in bulk from the same manufacturer. And everybody's using the same thing. So no matter what vehicle you get into, you're speaking the same language, you're sharing the same information, and you're working through, issues and concerns together as well. That would be my very broad answer.
Yeah, Patrick, I'm curious your thoughts too, especially from the perspective of the one thing I do know, right, in marketing is that the 3M motto is complement, not complicate. Curious your thoughts too.
Well, Marcus really hit on it when he said talk to the other departments. I was going to be my main thing is definitely see what those around you are doing because of the mutual aid aspect. You want to make sure what you have is going to be copacetic with others. Like just knowing what is around you is going to help fuel your decision. Another one is talk with your associations, IAFC, the California Fire Chiefs, you name it. You're already involved in these associations. A lot of them do all of the research for you. And if you come to them and say, look, I'm looking to do X, they can say, well, we know of these 5 companies that could actually come and help you with it. Let's get you introduced to them. So that's another route to go, is just, again, ask around, ask your associations that you're involved in, ask your fire departments that you're, working with on a day-to-day basis, just see what they're doing. Because yes, you want to have technology that's going to actually work with them.
Excellent. Got another one here for you, Patrick. This might be starting with you this time in regards to 3AM innovations and your scene mapping. It seemed that you were locating individual members, R1, A, B, C, etc. Are those coming from the SCBA systems or are they manually positioned?
So that's a great question. In this scenario, what we were actually showing is our en route, which is really just tracking the actual vehicles themselves. And that was showing off like cradle points or just even like the tough books, they have their own GPS, just pulling just that alone. And so we could actually locate where the actual vehicles are. So it's AVL. But getting a little bit deeper. So there's, if you take FLORIAN to the next level, we actually have our on-scene package. And that's where it's actually tracking the individual firefighters themselves. And that is either leveraging your GPS radios, your Android or iOS phones. We can track smartwatches. We're very device agnostic. So again, we want to not put barriers up. We don't want to go to a fire department and say, great, you have this awesome fleet of devices, throw it all out because we only work with this device here. That's not how we want to operate. We want to work with the fire department or the police department and actually say, all right, guys, this is the fleet that you have. Perfect. Here's the app, download it and run. And so, yeah, we're very device agnostic. Even for wildfire, we are working with satellite constellation companies. So we could actually track those in complete LTE denied environments. So really it comes down to your department and what your preferences are. So.
Great. Great. Marcus, there's one for you in here.
Yes, ma'am.
Screen size and brightness in daylight can be problematic. What is Panasonic doing to get us much larger screen sizes for mounting apparatus?
Well, we have the 10-inch to 12-inch, and then the two clamshells are larger than that. Most of them hover in the area of 1200 nit sunlight viewable with anti-glare technology. So I'd love to know what you have and what you're looking for, and I'd love to find you a solution for that. It certainly can be. Panasonic leads the charge in the screen brightness and viewability in direct sunlight, but you may have a specific need that exceeds that, and I'd love to help you find a solution for it.
Awesome. Just as a kind of follow-up for me too on that one, do Panasonic tablets work as clamshell computers too, or can they?
Yes. So the G2 and the 33 both come as tablet usable, but they actually fit into an insert that is the keyboard lower, which makes it a clamshell, but it operates autonomously as the tablet, or as we call it a 2-in-1. It's a tablet or a clamshell.
Okay,
Yep.
great. And do they have to be docked to work?
They do not. They are completely mobile, and that, I'm just kind of going to go back to that when you said earlier, some of the barriers to advancing in technology. It can be everything that we've already talked about it, but it can also be I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, a less than tech savvy command staff that doesn't really totally understand or appreciate what's out there and is available to make the job easier. And you're going to see as new generations roll in and younger, more tech savvy folks who have been operating their entire life off a phone since birth are going to understand what those tech answers can be and those solutions can be, and it's going to be easier to access and gain and understand. And then when you go into that training aspect of it, everything you said, Patrick, it has to be smart, it has to make sense, it has to be easy, and they have to understand the why for it, or they're never going to use it. And if you don't do that on the front end, you're going to have a very hard time playing catch up trying to make that work. But when it works brilliantly.
Excellent. I know I'm seeing a lot of kind of tech related questions on here, which is great. I don't know how many we can answer today. We've only got about a minute left, but Patrick, any way that you want to summarize hardware requirements for the software for laptops, Android and iOS capable? How would you summarize that?
No, I already touched on the Android. So for the on-scene piece of it, we're actually tracking individual firefighters. It is Android, iOS capable, yes. For the actual laptop minimum requirements, we benchmark on an $800 tablet. Really, it's Windows 10 and above. So pretty much most laptops around will be. But again, we work amazingly on the Panasonic TOUGHBOOks. And is there anything else that I missed? It was minimum requirements.
Yeah, we have minimum requirements, hardware requirements, and then the operating system.
I would say if there's a way, if you have anything that was directed to me or could be directed to me, please email it to me with contact information. I'll be happy to close the loop on anything.
Yeah, definitely. And Marcus, as always, the perfect tee up to the perfect day. Let me share my screen one more time because there was a question here as well on pricing. And I wasn't quite sure how to answer it because we've got 3 AM software pricing that would run on the TOUGHBOOK and the TOUGHBOOK pricing themselves. So to all of our wonderful attendees, thank you so much for joining our webinar today. On the screen here, you're going to see 2 QR codes. The one on the left will point you to the answers of some of those questions and more, and the one on the right as well for Panasonic and some of those TOUGHBOOK devices and new technology that they have available. So take a moment. We'll leave these up for another minute or two. So find your cell phone, get your camera out on your cell phone and scan these in. They'll direct you to the web pages where you can get more of that information, including pricing as asked today, and some other items as well. If you'd like to get in touch with Patrick, Marcus, or myself, our contact info can also be found here. 3 a.m. Innovations does have a special offer today for our attendees as a thank you for joining us. So to redeem, simply scan that barcode on the left to learn more. But as always, like I said, please be sure to scan both barcodes, learn more about these proven hardware and software capabilities that are now available to the fire service. So thank you again, Patrick. Thank you, Marcus, for joining us today and for this great discussion. From 3 a.m. Innovations, I'm Christy LaPlante. Thank you all for joining us and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, guys.